Good now, Revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. It is the 25th of September. It is a Thursday. We are rounding out the week. It's been a hell of a week. I won't say settled in because I'm not settled at all. It's very disheveled, but I am in the new house. The move is largely done. The worst part is over. And now I am just unpacking. Will, how's it going?
It's good. I wish the market were green, but it's not. Things look like they're going to sell more, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. They probably are. But, you know, it'd be great if the market were just going up and up and up, and that would be nice. And
Amen.
My girlfriend finally gets back from Turkey tomorrow, so I'm excited because when I am alone, the demons close in.
By that, he means when he's alone, he spends every penny that they have on cardboard and costumes.
Actually, not a single penny has been spent on cardboard or costumes. However, I have cheated a little bit on my diet. Been a little bit, a couple Guinness, a few burgers, a little bit of pizza. I've been bad on that front. Definitely less productive. I am not good alone. I'm very much so an extrovert. And then as soon as Violet left the house, I was like, I have the place to myself. It's just like, oh.
And then the novelty wears off.
And then the walls close in and I become a little sad. It's like, So I'm very excited to have my girlfriend back tomorrow night.
Excellent.
And today is a very, very, very busy day for me, and busy is good.
Busy is good. Speaking of busy, Evan is busy. Off gallivanting to Nashville for an audition. Very exciting, potentially pretty big role. So taking the opportunity to go take a crack at it, but you know, we believe in him.
Oh yes, that's right. Sorry, my mind is like a goldfish sometimes. I was like, Evan's gone, and I was like, yeah, he's told me that, but he's told me that about 3 or 4 times.
About 3 or 4 times, yes.
About 3 or 4 times.
But that's okay. He's on the road. He's listening. We miss him. We're going to do our best to hold down the fort. And in the meantime, Will, I think perhaps we could start with you maybe explaining a little bit more about why things are red and perhaps why you expect them to continue to be so for a bit longer. I've heard you say you're expecting that kind of thing for the first half of October, potentially.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. Just like a general timeline is I just kind of see things on the chart for Bitcoin and from a liquidation heat map standpoint for things to sell for Bitcoin. And I can show that in a second. But I'm also looking at like the stock market has done great across every single factor. Gold and silver have done great across every single factor. But now they're both kind of at a point where there might be just a natural little cool off period for them because they've just been, you know, kind of run for a while now. And when things run, they typically will at some point take a quick little breather. And that's timing up very nicely with Bitcoin right now showing more and more weakness. So I think between those two things, you know, you could see selling for a handful of weeks. And then I do expect things to turn around. I do expect things to turn around in crypto because the macro environment is good. That's why everything else has been running, because the macro environment is good. And by macro environment, I mean rate cuts from the Fed, M2 money supply going up. Unemployment actually isn't bad, despite all the headlines. Remember, guys, everything's going to make it seem like the world is ending with every single headline, but that's to get clicks and views and to pull at your emotional heartstrings. But like unemployment's still at 4.3%. That's pretty damn good. Inflation isn't that bad. You know, it's at 2.9, 2.7%, right in that range, depending on which factor you're looking at, or like, you know, like 2.8 to like 3.2, depending on which indicator you're looking at. That's not where we want to be, but it's also not bad. Remember, 2 years ago, it was at like 7 or 8%, right? And the money bridges are on. And then we have a whole bunch of crypto ETFs that are going to be coming out in like 2 months' time. We have 401ks being included. All the SEC has to do is give the thumbs up for it, and 401ks get included into buying crypto. We have a bunch of crypto regulations that are supposed to get signed before the end of the year. That's going to provide a whole bunch of crypto solutions from TradFi and stuff. So like I'm looking at all this stuff coming, and I go, all right, we're in for probably a few weeks of pain, and then it seems like things should turn around because the macro environment is actually pretty good. But if I were to share my screen,
yeah, Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, as I look at it exclusively on like the social front and I guess, the mostly macro front, it doesn't really make sense unless I chalk it up to the sell the news, like sell off, which then just happened to cascade a little bit further and is at the point where, it's been going on for so long that people are a little skittish and nervous and often at this point overextended. A little bit maybe extra exposure that perhaps is making people feel a little bit more. I'm curious though, because one of the things I'm trying to do a better job of is collecting more like specific sentiment information from everybody. So I'm really curious if you guys can toss out a comment to just kind of share, how do you feel specifically about the markets at this moment in time and why? And I know that's a lot to potentially put into like a TikTok comment or another social media comment, but genuinely curious kind of what informs most people's opinions, because we all look at different things, we all care about different things, we're not all operating at the same level of information, we don't all look at the same data, but we are all like participating in the same market. So the way that everyone feels, regardless of why they feel that way, does all matter, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and what I'd say is my opinion on Bitcoin selling for a few weeks would change if we could just get a daily candle close above if we were to move up like straight up today, basically $113,500, because if we can finally get above this one line here and actually hold it, because we weren't able to hold it here, we weren't able to hold it here. If we could just get above this line of resistance here, really truly hold it, and then use that as a blast off point and make a new relative higher high from about $117,000 too, then I'm really bullish, right? Because the reason why I say 117,000 is because it's basically like the make it or break it line for Bitcoin. You can see, all this resistance right here, all of this inflection point here, and then a rejection here and a rejection right here. It's just been the make it or break it point if we can ever actually hold it. So that to me is like, all right, cool. I'm full on bull mode. So if today's daily candle just totally reverses, then, I can change my tune. But another pattern that I'm seeing on the chart, and let me clean this up just so it's not as gross and disgusting to look at with all of these lines, is this diamond top pattern. This diamond top pattern at the top of a big bull run that we've had here is a bearish indicator. And if it breaks to the downside, it could be a fall in Bitcoin of about $14,000. So from a TI standpoint, I see some negatives here. I would be surprised to see Bitcoin fall that hard because of what we see on the Bitcoin liquidity heat map. There's not much financial incentive on the market. So this is going to get blindingly white for a second. My apologies, everybody. Shield your irises. The Gwomp. Hi, you night mode lovers. Honestly, I like to. Bearish, but the bearish, but in pain. My eyes, they are melting. And if my internet could work, I'll show you guys. But like,
it's thinking.
Yeah, as you can see on this Bitcoin liquidity heat map, and if you don't know what this is, by the way, and let me show the people on TikTok too. Because Alex, you're not helping me out here, man. Anyway,
my phone's all the way back there.
Oh, that is true. So there's a pit of zero money to me. There's zero money to be made from about $103.5 to $98,000
from
a centralized exchange standpoint. Yeah, it's a total abyss of liquidation levels. And yes, granted, there is a point of money making here to really drive the market lower to $92,000, which, oh, by the way, that's where a gap exists on the futures chart. But the thing is the market is financially incentivized. In fact, Binance alone makes they don't necessarily make this, but there's $7 billion plus worth of liquidations, which is massive, to go down to about $103,500. But then after that, the biggest payday is going to be to drive the market higher up towards 120 grand. This is a bigger payday than 92K. And when I combine that with there being zero financial incentive to drive the market lower than $103,500, I look at that and I say, hey, am I seeing a TA indicator that says Bitcoin to 92K is on the cards? Sure. Is there a potential scenario of that going to 92K on the Bitcoin liquidity heat map? Sure. But is there a stronger scenario to see Bitcoin get driven upwards to 120K from a financial incentive standpoint after it hits 103.5K? Especially because if we go down there, you're going to see so many shorts get opened up. That 120K zone is going to brighten up. It's going to be a fat, juicy target that Binance is probably going to be slathering over as compared to that 92K point. There's going to be so much more money to drive the market higher once we hit 103.5K than to go lower, that when I look at that TA pattern, that diamond top, I go, okay, like bearish pressure for sure, but not a whole lot of a reason, in my personal opinion, to see us head to its breakout target of really like $96,000. I don't really necessarily see that as being the most likely scenario.
And at this point, it feels like, I mean, for the last how long, it hasn't been about huge crashes down to, you know, the more bearish predictions to the downside, and it hasn't been about insanely long and lengthy runs all the way up. It's been more about, you know, like perhaps a little bit bigger range of chop, but chop, just swinging back and forth between those liquidation levels, those like major levels of liquidation and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And if you ask me, it's because the hedge funds and the traditional financial institutions that have entered the game are like, what's the best way we can fuck up these crypto traders who think the market has to react certain ways? Like, oh, let's just do the total opposite of that.
Right.
And, you know, they're very good at doing that. So, of course, it's going to happen. And so as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, let's just take a look. You know, here is a fall of 32% in Bitcoin. Here's a fall of 31% in Bitcoin. You know, we're getting these 30% corrections along the way. You know, currently we've had a correction of 13%. And we'll see how, I mean, 33%, another 30% fall would be 82% Bitcoin. I don't think that's necessarily I don't think that's going to happen this time. I don't think that's on the cards. But, you know, we've seen 30% corrections along the way, and now we're going to get something similar. And, you know, we'll see what it's going to be like. If it's another 30%, that'd be wild. But yeah, we've been in 30% down, 30% down. You know, we'll see what we get this time. I think in the worst case scenario, we would get that fall down to about 96K. That'd be 22%. If we went down to 92K, that'd be 26%. If we go down to my target of about 103, that'd be a 17% fall, you know? So yeah, that's just kind of how Bitcoin's been behaving since the ETFs.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And of course, you know, as we talk about things that could help drive the altcoin markets up, you mentioned ETFs already, and we've got, you know, potentially I wouldn't say staring down the barrel because it's still a little bit ambiguous and vague, but theoretically more like real ETPs on the way for some more major altcoins. You know, we're looking at potentially seeing staking turned on, which we saw sort of alluded to early this year. I mean, like literally January. Have heard nary a whisper since. I don't think
nor
I've
would
seen
you.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've seen a single thing, but I mean, which is kind of odd because I don't even really see chatter around it. And for me, staking service providers, or excuse me, ETH custodians rather, for spot ETH ETFs, being allowed to stake all of that is like so good for the network, and would be such a big deal because then you could start to see like a dividend payment for ETF holders, which is sweet. Opens the door for all sorts of things. Think about that too. If we like chase that rabbit down the hole for a second, you can do DeFi things with Bitcoin. I wonder if, you know, one of those kind of coming online for Ethereum or several could cascade to, you know, opening the door someday. You know, this is like more of a stretch, but like, you know, wrapping ETF Bitcoin and doing things with it to earn yield on it from the point of view of a custodian. That would be interesting.
I've never thought about that. And my first initial reaction was, Alex, you can't fucking do that, dude. It's TradFi. But Biddle. But
yeah,
Biddle,
see?
You can tokenize, you'll tokenize everything. So you could tokenize a Bitcoin ETF, wrap it, and do stuff with it. Although you wouldn't have to necessarily wrap it because at that point, it would be tokenized by BlackRock on the Ethereum blockchain. So you could just do stuff with it. You wouldn't have to wrap it. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that, because in my head I was just like TradFi, brick wall.
No,
Still,
for sure.
you know.
But if we mash the world of RWA into the world of DeFi, then, you know, like you said, you could start to be able to tokenize all kinds of things that we've never been able to have ETPs for before. And depending on how and where they're tokenized, you can then do DeFi things with them, which could make for some extremely interesting relationships with these different products that, you know, would function in a way we've never really seen before. Because at the same time, you could start, you know, we could see spot ETPs for Solana, which, I mean, makes sense. Market cap wise, significantly smaller than Ethereum, but like revenue wise, larger than Ethereum. I think, except for that one day when the World Liberty Financial token dropped. But I mean, so from a revenue perspective, that makes total sense. Think about how many DeFi options there are between Ethereum and Solana that theoretically could get RWA applications inside of people's stock portfolios, inside of all sorts of other things that you might want to be able to invest in. I mean, to me, that's like one of the biggest potential like floodgates opening for retire. If we've already got the 401k thing on the horizon, and then you mash in all of these other things. I mean, just I think about like what could the retirement account landscape look like in 5 years if that continues to progress. Seems nuts.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be kind of crazy. But from a timeline standpoint, too, the Ethereum ETF with staking will get turned on. I mean, I can't say will. It's most likely going to get turned on by the end of October, because that is the final deadline for a decision from the SEC. And then the Solana ETF with staking from Fidelity, its final deadline is like the middle or end of November, I believe. But the thing is these deadlines aren't really important anymore because of what the SEC has done with the changing of their like approval process. You know, so we don't necessarily have to have a decision happen at the deadline, because basically ETF products can be listed immediately so long as they meet the criteria. And I need to go take a look at what that criteria exactly is, because maybe it's like it sounds like bullish news, but in reality it's just like it's still going to require a conversation with almost every crypto ETF. So I need to go and actually do a deep dive into that. But it seems like it's streamlined, but I need to find out if it actually is. I need to confirm. I need to go read it myself.
Just a quick point of clarification, because I interchanged them a little bit.
The ETF,
ETP, yeah. ETP stands for exchange traded product, of which ETFs are one type. There are other types though. Okay. ETNs, exchange traded notes, ETCs. You can look it up.
ETCs. I actually haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, definitely ETCs. Yeah. Oh, yeah. ETCs are exchange traded commodities, and I feel like there's something else. But yet, so there are several different types of ETP, exchange traded products, and then funds are one of them. But you know, there's more than one. So sorry, I toss those in. Just because I say ETP sometimes, because there are different ways that you could take these various crypto products if we start to put them in that category. They don't necessarily all have to be funds, but that's what that is. I'm gonna look at. I swear I'm forgetting one. Let me pull up a list here. Oh,
hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime doll.
Okay. Thank you.
That was the perfect amount of stalling.
Yep, brilliant.
Oh, wow.
So yes, ETN, exchange traded note, which is like an unsecured debt security issued by banks. They don't like hold underlying assets, but they track some sort of index. They track some sort of benchmark. And then ETCs, exchange traded commodities. These typically provide exposure to commodities like gold, silver, oil, or increasingly crypto assets. So I guess maybe technically these like ETFs tracking spot Bitcoin are technically ETCs. They can take, I guess maybe it depends on how they're sold. It takes the form of either grantor trusts or commodity pools, and can be physically backed or use futures contracts. So that kind of includes a couple of other things, because of course we've seen futures ETFs and stuff like that outside of it. Because what are the, do you know anything, what are the specifics? Because we have, there's a Solana ETP that, you know, is quite bad. And then is there an XRP one now at this point as well that's like
yes, there
bad?
is. There's also a Doge one.
And a Doge
the
one.
One by XRP is by XRP is the Osprey Rex.
That's right.
One. And what makes them so bad is that their issue is that they're more like trusts than ETFs and issued by C Corps. So that might all seem like gobbledygook to you. So basically it's issued by like a regular company and not an actual investment fund or an issuer of investment funds like a BlackRock or Fidelity. And so it results in a lot of really, really, really crappy tax incentives. I mean, like you get taxed a lot on those and you get taxed multiple times. I'm trying to remember the other reasons. They have super low liquidity. There's another thing that makes them super crappy though. Oh yeah, the fees on them are super high. The fees are massive. And what's the reasoning why? I always have to look it up again. I always have to look it up.
I know you've done a couple of videos about
I've done a couple of videos on it, and then you ask me on the show, and I'm like, my thoughts are in the video.
I brain dumped.
Because I just go like, this is a bad product. And then my brain's like, erase, control out, delete. But just know the taxes are worse. The fees are worse. The liquidity is lower. It's a bad product.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. However, there is the opportunity to actually buy it at a discount. So here's one thing is that like the Rex Osprey ETF for XRP, it could offer you the ability to buy XRP at a discount. However, it could also offer you the ability to buy XRP at a premium.
Right.
So it just depends on market conditions. But then even if you do get a discount, like it's a 10% discount or something, you're like, haha, I got XRP lower than it actually is in the market. The fee to execute that is like 22%. Like it's stupid, or it's like to sell it is an extra 22. So it's like it's the arbitrage opportunity is a total wash, and it's actually a negative. So like the discount for it would have to be massive in order for it to make financial sense and actually to actually use the product. And the hilarious thing is the first day of trading for that XRP Rex Osprey ETF solution, it had a volume of like $20 million, which was super high for a crappy product like that. And then afterwards, it was like $1 million.
Yeah, the luckiest that I got with the Bitcoin stuff, I vividly remember. So I used to hold I do hold what was the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, just because I wanted some kind of Bitcoin exposure in my Roth IRA. And then, of course, the ETFs were not even really on the horizon at the time when I was doing that, or at least not seriously. We thought that it could take ages. And, you know, that was the stage where we were punting these things down the road farther and farther and farther. And it was like, well, it could be next week, or it could be in 15 years, or it could never happen. We don't know. And then they converted that trust, which was a mediocre product, into the Grayscale ETF, which does have higher fees than like IBIT and stuff like that. But because I already had so many shares of the trust, they just converted all of those shares to ETF shares. And then the value of it tripled. And it was awesome.
That's pretty dope.
I got really lucky with that one.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit of luck. I got super lucky with my first 100X. It was a bag I freaking held from my first bull market in 2017 because I held everything and rode it all the way down. And that market didn't sell a lick of anything, and ended up being Engine Coin. And then I was so lucky to have it get an extra burst of life in the next bull market, and it was a 100x for me. And I was just like, oh, thank God, because I lost so much.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've never hit like one that I actually played properly at that point. I did buy so right after I started getting into crypto, I bought Ethereum, and then I saw ETH Classic, and I didn't know like really anything about
the
anything.
ETC. You were talking about an ETC earlier. It was Ethereum Classic.
It was Ethereum Classic.
It was Ethereum Classic.
And so I bought a ton of it because it was super cheap, and I was like, oh, this is Ethereum, but cheaper. Let's do that. And then I like started to read, and I knew I then learned just enough to be dangerous, and was like, oh well, I know now that this is the blah blah blah, the fork, and this is not good, and all the activity is on the other one, and I need to get rid of this stupid thing. And I sold 100% of that position, and then it felt like 5 seconds later it just did like a 25x for no reason. And everybody, this was like, you can go back on the chart and find the spot where ETH Classic just erroneously exploded, and know that quite literally, like, as it was pulling out of the station, I just sold the entire thing at the exact bottom.
You were the account that the whales were looking at. As like, once we get this wallet address,
once this asshole,
once
sells
this
this
douchebag sells, we're gonna make him just real sad.
Yeah, and to be very
fuck
Ryan,
wallet SL7X00XRW17XWQ. I hate that guy. Let's wait till he sells.
How'd you know my address?
Yeah. I know everything.
Ryan,
by the way, that's not how
Classic.
Solana addresses start.
Well, and it wasn't on Solana, you wiener.
Oh, right. I was looking at the Solana chart.
You might be able to take a hint from the name Ethereum Classic to get a sense for which network.
You know I'm dyslexic. Is that a problem for dyslexic people? I actually don't know.
No, it's not. You're just a wiener. Is
Perfect.
it still worth anything? I honestly have no idea. For me, the grief is still too near, and I refuse to look at that
The
chart.
grief is still too near. It's totally not worth anything. But you know, you'll have people do the same thing that Alex did over and over again. So I'm sure it'll have pumps.
So, Will, there was a question earlier about some of this XRP mumbo jumbo that's been being tossed around lately. I feel like we never go longer than a few months until some like grand, large scale thing for XRP gets to dominate the attention sphere for a little bit. Have you looked at all? Because I have not, full disclosure. So I need to like throw up a quick perplexity in the background here while I stall by rambling about nothing. About this like Metallius. Is it one of those?
Metallica is a good band.
Amen. And that's that.
And that's all I know about this XRP. No, this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay.
XRP stuff does not come up on my timeline. Crypto stuff doesn't come up on my For You page. The only place where I get crypto stuff is Twitter.
I usually make it a point to when someone says like, what does such and such mean for XRP? Just to have like my default answer locked and loaded, which is probably nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Except
it's correct 98% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, those things are never the thing that like does it. Just the fact that eventually everyone gets too tired of it being low or flat or boring.
I got a text yesterday about XRP from my buddy Dave, who just got hired at Paxos, and so like he's new to the crypto space. He came from the cybersecurity world. He's a developer, and he got hired at Paxos as a senior engineer and solution consultant for them. And so he's been like really diving in and like learning about crypto. And he texts me fairly frequently with questions. And yesterday he texted me like, "Hey, what's the deal?" I forget the exact lining of the text, but it's like, "Hey, like, what's the deal with XRP? Is it really like as like this like bullish as like everyone's talking about? And it seems like it's really well connected with the banks and stuff. And it seems like a real strong play there." And I was like, "Nope, it's a cult. Anyway, talk to you later, man." And I was like, "Nope." He's like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's a cult." And it's like the people who run Ripple are super well connected and all that kind of stuff, and they have nothing to do with the actual promotion of the token. It's just a way for them to raise money, and they allow the XRP community, which is a cult, to create conspiracy theories and run with it to drive up the price of XRP so they can continuously fund their business. But like, I will say XRP has more going for it than the overwhelming majority of crypto, for sure, because the overwhelming by a lot. Because again, the overwhelming majority of crypto is a Ponzi scheme, guys. But like XRP has way more going for it than the majority of the crypto space. So like definitely take a look into it, but really take a look into Ripple. And he was like, "Oh, huh. Fugazi. I went to go Fugazi. He's like, "Okay, cool. Interesting. Thanks, man." But yeah, I got it. I just started laughing. I was at the gym. He's like, "Hey, dude, what about XRP, man? It seems like really awesome." I was like, it's better than most.
Yeah. I mean, it's an important instance of two things can be true at once. Right. It can be true.
Wait, this comment from Solano Cruz: "If you say 3 bad things about XRP, Cosmic Crypto pops up like Beetlejuice." I like that.
In that case, he's on his way.
He's on
His
his
ears
way.
are burning. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, two things can be true at once. Like I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but XRP is not going to change the world. That doesn't mean that the value of the token is not going to go up, because it has more attention than basically anything but probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Like I don't think anything. And honestly, I would probably say that in terms of like diverse interest, it's more than Solana. Probably not Ether, Bitcoin in terms of like the diversity of the interest pool, but the size of the group of people who are interested in XRP and what it's doing is absolutely massive. And you would be silly to discount the power of that, regardless of how
100%.
blown out of proportion the potential like future use cases of anything. The whole thing could be complete and utter nonsense, which I do believe most of it is. But if the belief is strong enough, then that really truly doesn't matter.
Yep, exactly.
So there you go.
And that's that.
Although Solana will flip it at some point. I mean, that's not, I wouldn't say that that's unlikely, especially given that nothing in the entire industry can touch Solana from a revenue perspective. And the more, it's not even close. You want to
No. Like I was just saying flip Solana. I was like, wait a second. XRP already flipped Solana. It's the number 3 largest cryptocurrency.
They said Solana would flip XRP.
I think long term it will. I think it'll take a while because the XRP ETF is totally going to get approved. Because the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which is the largest futures market in the world, they're going to get approval to open up Solana and XRP, both as options markets to be made available on their exchange, not their exchange, but in their market, whatever you want to call it. I guess exchange, whatever it is. Yeah. And that pretty much guarantees the release of an XRP ETF. And as we've seen this year, this market has been led by retail to the nth degree. And what does retail love? They love XRP. Why? Because they hear about it all the time. So I bet you see actually fairly strong ETF inflows for XRP because of that. But I think long term that there'll be more interest long term for Solana. But I wouldn't be shocked to see like the ETF inflows for XRP out the gate potentially be even bigger than the Solana one, despite there being interest that you can earn off of the Solana ETF and not the XRP one.
Right, which again just goes to speak to the power of attention, interest, and excitement versus measurable things like revenue and user base. Because XRP does not really have any users, but they have a tremendous number of holders. That's pretty much what everybody does with that token. They hold on to it and they hope. Versus Solana, which has more users and makes a lot more revenue. I saw a comment about Pengu coming in on the revenue. Just worth noting, Pengu's revenue is Solana revenue because it's on that ecosystem. And nothing is even close to the Solana ecosystem revenue, like from a daily standpoint, in any category.
Well, not necessarily true. Yes, true for Pudgy Penguin's revenue, but Pudgy Penguin
not like the toys and stuff, but like the
that's what I'm talking about. Like their NFTs are on Ethereum, their token is on Solana, their Pudgy Penguin video game is on Mythical Marketplace, which is its own layer 1, and then they also have Abstract, which is a layer 2. So like it's just I just wanted to expand on that. So it's not just
that's fair. Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified. I was talking about Pengu.
Okay.
But just for perspective, the Ethereum here, let's pull this up. Chain revenue. They're actually quite close right now. What's going on with Ethereum right now? Why is their daily revenue so freaking high? Way higher than normal. Did something just happen that I like completely spaced out on because of moving brain?
Not that I can think of.
Something did. Ethereum app revenue today, or in the last 24 hours, is $11.5 million, which is about 4 times higher than it usually is.
Yep. So one thing also I wanted to just share is I wanted to see who has filed an application for the XRP ETF. And there's actually quite a few. There's Bitwise, 21 Shares, Canary Capital, Grayscale. By the way, Grayscale converts the trust that they have into an ETF, and it always results in selling pressure. Wisdom Tree, Wisdom Twee, Franklin Templeton, CoinShares, and that's it. I'm curious to see what the total amount of liquidity is across all of them. But like, you don't see your Fidelity, you don't see your BlackRock. Those are the two monsters in terms of liquidity being provided, and that's what you really want in order to have an ETF product really explode. The Solana ETF has Fidelity behind it, not BlackRock yet, but it has Fidelity behind it. So the amount of total liquidity should be larger just by having Fidelity for Solana as compared to XRP. So I think you'll see a lot of interest for XRP in the ETF products through your Bitwise, your 21 Shares, your Canary, your Grayscale. But there's so much more money at Fidelity than any of those other names that it would be an uphill battle, but I would still expect there to be a lot of retail interest in XRP through those. But because they don't have Fidelity or BlackRock, long term, the Solana ETF will beat the XRP ETF.
There's a question that came in here from Austin. What is the source to see revenue? So if you go to just the main homepage of DeFiLlama, along the top of the webpage, you can sort by ecosystem. They are ranked in order of TVL, total value locked, the amount of money that is currently like living on that ecosystem doing whatever. And if you click on that, every single ecosystem has a page, and one of the line item categories in there is for revenue. There are several different kinds of revenue. So there's chain revenue, which is the revenue generated by the actual blockchain itself, which is not necessarily the one that you want to look at for this. If you want to see ecosystem health, that would be app revenue, on-chain app revenue, which is the sum total of revenue collected by all of the apps from users of all of those apps and protocols and projects and stuff inside of that ecosystem. So what you can kind of take from this, typically every day, literally today, and there was the day when World Liberty Finance launched. Those are the only 2 days that I ever remember seeing Ethereum's app app revenue higher than Ethereum's app revenue. And what you can take from that usually is that there's just more people doing more stuff, spending more money on Solana products than there are on Ethereum products. However, Solana's Ethereum's TVL, total value locked, is much, much, much higher. So, and yes, there are usually, I don't know, dude, we're getting like a weird influx right now. It like comes in waves, a weird influx of bots on the TikTok side, which is very
I have noticed
annoying.
that the bots on TikTok have changed up their strategy, and I think it's because TikTok changed up some security measures. I have far fewer William Watsons that have been creeping up and popping up to provide comments, but I see way more bot accounts really trying to pretend to be people.
Yeah, I'm just adding. So Solemn, AMSO, you guys have the power. You have the power to get rid of them. Just mute the what you want to do is not block. Just mute for the entire live. If you block them, only you cannot see them anymore, and everyone else still sees them, which is so dumb that if like I as the host block something, it only stops me from seeing it. That is insane to me that that's a feature.
I saw a great question. I saw a great question from Swolem. Swolem Sporting. No, I saw a great question from Solemn, which was, why is Tron at 1.25 million revenue? Tron makes a lot of revenue because Tron is super popular in Asia. It's super popular in Asia because Justin Sun is a super well-connected guy, and Justin Sun is the dude over at Tron, and he's super well-connected and super sketchy as fuck. One of the sketchiest in all of crypto, but he uses his power to enrich himself, which means adoption of Tron. But the thing is people really use Tron in Asia, so like it gets a ton of use and it generates a ton of revenue because of that.
Yeah,
and we don't see that in the West.
You know what's funny is Justin Sun is like so corrupt is a strong word, but like I wonder if he's progressed past sketchy. because like they just know what he's doing. He just wants the value of Tron to go up. And so if he gets the sense that like he can pay somebody to get more attention and like more interest and more excitement to Tron, he's going to do it. So like when the opportunity came up to buy a shitload of Trump's meme coin to get Trump to pump the price of Tron by including it in some list or putting it in the World Liberty Finance Treasury, which they did, then they did. And then there you go. And then he can advertise that. So it's, can you even say it's sketchy? Because you know exactly how it's going to go. It's like, oh, he has the opportunity to pay somebody to inflate the value of this thing. He's going to do it. I know exactly that. That's so predictable. Like to me, sketchy is like I'm, you know.
But he artificially inflates the demand for Tron, and that then makes people want to use it more, which works. I mean, shit, it works.
It does work.
It does.
But like I said, it's just one of those. It's kind of like Tether, you know, like Tether is absolutely gigantic, even though here, especially lately, you know, a lot of the American attention, for example, has been much more heavily on USDC. And yet, in terms of amount minted, not even close.
Yeah.
Amount of revenue, not even close.
I want to show something here, going back to our conversation around the issuers for the XRP and Solana ETFs, because I said I wanted to provide a little bit more context. I'm like, hey, because the Solana ETF has Fidelity behind it, and XRP has all these other ones, but not Fidelity, and BlackRock's not behind either one either, by the way. The amount of liquidity potential for the Solana ETF is so much bigger than the XRP ETF. This is, and it's weird. ChatGPT doesn't do the best job of pulling up every single issuer of Bitcoin ETFs, I've noticed. And so I have to be like, hey, ChatGPT, you missed this one. It's like, oh, thank you, William. A tip of my cap to you, sir. That's how I imagine ChatGPT. That's its voice to me. But if we take a look just at the like volume from issuers for the Bitcoin ETF, we have BlackRock at 875 billion assets under management. We have Fidelity, number 2 behind it. It didn't pull up the number though. And then I asked it again and it still didn't do it. So it's like, whatever. And then Grayscale. Grayscale is the biggest one that is behind both XRP and the Solana ETF at 20 billion assets under management. And then, you know, 21 Shares also issuing the XRP ETF 5 billion. Bitwise also there, 4.6 billion. Franklin Templeton, 650 million. Wisdom Tree, 188 million. So, you know, if we take a look at Fidelity, which is number 2, which is in the tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars, it's somewhere closer to like $50 billion. That is an extra, that $50 billion is 10 times bigger than ARK, and, you know, about 2.5 times bigger than Grayscale. So all the people who are behind the Solana ETF are also all the people behind the XRP ETF, but plus an extra $50 billion in interest that we've seen for crypto products through Bitcoin alone, not to include Ethereum as well. And so it's a significant advantage for potential inflows for Solana for the ETF as compared to XRP. I still think you'll see pretty big numbers from your Wisdom Trees, your Bitwise, your 21 Shares as retail dives into XRP for the ETF products. But like, it's a significant advantage long-term for Solana as compared to XRP, for Solana to one day flip XRP. A significant advantage. For ETFs, the single most important thing is liquidity. It's the single most important thing.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly why this humongous surge in Ethereum revenue has happened. And it doesn't really seem like there's anything super, super specific, except that Hyperliquid is just killing it right now. And
yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of that is contributing, which is really interesting. And just for comparison, here's a little bit of data. And actually, I can pull this up on the. Let me throw this on the screen. So if we take a look, and I don't know why ignore the TVL number right here. This is wrong. And if I refresh it, you can see the real one for like a split second. I have no clue why it's so unbelievably wrong right now.
It's off.
It's very off. It's like 86 billion. and this whole chart's wrong. Like I'm literally looking at the wrong. I have it on a different computer, and it's correct, and this one is just like way inflated. I truly don't know what's happening with the llama right now. But these numbers are all consistent. Just ignore this TVL and this chart, and the scale on this is wrong. But as you can see here, the the app revenue 24 hours, $11.36 million on ETH. If we go down the list, and like I said, this list up here is in order of TVL. So next is Solana TVL, and again, that is wrong as well. It's 11 billion, significant, but not 13.5. Then come down here and same kind of thing. So app revenue 5.59 million, which is pretty consistent. So one thing that you can say about Sol is that the ecosystem revenue numbers are like relatively consistent. They fluctuate between like high 4s to low 8s on a pretty regular basis on a daily time frame. If we continue to go down that list, Base usually has great revenue. Now, again, these numbers, this order of blockchains up here is not sorted by revenue, even though I believe it should be. App revenue over here on Base, 1.12 million. Then it kind of takes a dive off. So Arbitrum still significant, 394,000. Avalanche, 360,000, also good. Look at Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid sitting here with single, and remember, this is like not very many apps on this because the whole thing is basically one app. $2.89 million in daily revenue for the Hyperliquid ecosystem. That's bananas. And if we pop over here to Tron, which you'll notice is sitting up here with billions more in TVL comparatively, the chain is making $1 million a day, but the app revenue is like 20 grand.
Yeah.
So effectively, no one is really spending any money to do anything or use anything on this network.
No, it's just a decentralized Stripe.
Yes. It's very, very interesting to start kind of piecing together all these different pieces of data, because the more of this type of stuff you read, the more you realize that the way we evaluate all of these different projects, it really, truly does not make any sense. Like the methods of valuation of a company are pretty standard, very established. We have, kind of accepted frameworks for evaluating companies. You have your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, taxes, amortization, depreciation, and something, and you multiply that by like 3 to 5, and you can get like a rough valuation for the company. And then market caps and stock prices like typically largely reflect that, with some deviation. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule. In crypto, though, it's like mostly vibes and largely not a reflection of how much money is actually being made and earned. How much? Plus, like crypto revenue just typically gets a bad name, which is really weird. Because like we need these things to actually make money before any of these ridiculous valuations oftentimes make any kind of sense.
I feel like I'm just seeing people talk a lot about revenue, though.
Well, I have been yapping about it nonstop and now it is starting to make it's starting to pick up on Twitter.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
That is very new.
Yes,
like in the grand scheme of things, like it's not been years that we've been talking about trying to value crypto companies based on revenue. And only, I would say, in the past 3 to 4 months have I seen really significant interest pick up on like crypto Twitter for revenue. And that is so weird to me, because we've been assigning crazy value. So like if you want to make a realistic price prediction for something, take revenue of, let's pick something that seems like it might be more appropriately valued, right? These top 5 or 6 ecosystems, maybe more closely appropriately valued, just because they have millions and millions of dollars of revenue throughout the year. I mean, you're looking at billions of dollars. Multiple of these ecosystems are in excess of $1 billion a year in like app ecosystem revenue, which is great because that's where more builders are going to show up and put things, because our users doing stuff in those ecosystems, and builders want users for their apps. And if they are not capable of necessarily running a marketing department or having one or paying for one, then you got to go somewhere where there are already people, which is why those chains tend to reach that point of escape velocity, which is exactly where Solana is. You know, like it's not a mark of anything bad about the chain to say that the meme coin casino popped up on Solana. It happened there because that's where the people were. And why would you build a casino in a ghost town? You build it where everyone's hanging out with money, trying to figure out what to do with it. So
yep,
that's the way that I look at all that.
I totally forgot. I have a hard stop.
Okay.
I got to get off. I have a call right at 9.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you send us off then with a couple final thoughts, and then I will hang out and answer a few last minute straggling questions. And then I too will get out of here so I can finish trying to put my office a little bit more together and get rid of some boxes and all that good stuff. So what do you got for us on your way out the door?
Yeah, I'll just give you guys again my thoughts on the market. I'm expecting there to be selling for a few weeks. I'm expecting there to be selling and general consolidation and kind of sadness and depression to enter the market, and everyone to be screaming for a bear market for the next like 1 to 4 weeks. And then at some point in the second half of October, things starting to rally is what I personally think is going to happen. So I look at a big dip as an opportunity to buy more. I buy a little bit of Bitcoin and Solana every single day. I'm not going to be buying. I haven't been buying any more of the other altcoins, but I will once I really feel strong about a potential bottom. And yeah, that's just what I'm doing. So I just wanted to reemphasize that, because I feel like we're in a good environment of money printing and like long-term bullishness. So that's what I feel. So anyway, guys, I got to run. See y'all later. And actually, yeah, we'll see you guys on Monday.
Sounds good. Will, good to have you as always. Good to see you. Thank
Bye.
you, and have a wonderful day.
You as well, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Okay, let's round out a few more of these questions. I've seen your questions, so I'm going to try to rapid fire these things for a little bit here. If I miss you, do me a favor and just remind me lightly of the question. So one thing I've seen pop up a number of times is just about Aster. So Aster does absolutely have revenue. The thing is that you can't look up you can't look it up the same way on DeFiLlama that you would, because it is a protocol. It's a thing. And so right now, Aster, if we look at their profile here on the Llama, and I apologize, you guys can look this up and read along with me, or you can just kind of listen. I'll read this off. So over $2 billion of TVL over there, meaning total value locked, again, which is a measure of how much money exists on the thing. How much money is sitting there? If we're talking about a borrowing lending protocol, how much money is there on the platform being borrowed against or being lent or being put up as collateral, etc. If we're talking about a DEX, DEXs typically have lower TVL. TVL is not necessarily the world's greatest metric. You don't necessarily just want to look at only TVL. It's a good piece of a larger puzzle. It is not the only thing. Aster, being a decentralized perpetual exchange, it's a perps exchange. You can trade a whole bunch of stuff. There are crazy amounts of leverage. You can take the leverage there up to 1,001 times, which is bananas. So if you've ever felt like 100x leverage is just not enough for me, enter Aster. Their volume, okay, over the so drawn out to a month is tens of billions of dollars. Perp volume on Aster drawn out to a month is in excess of $80 billion. Right now, there's a lot of speculation and hype because there is potentially another airdrop here. They do track points for users, and there is some speculation about what you might need to do to qualify for airdrops there. They are certainly making the money. The market cap of this product is in excess of 3 billion. Annualized fees on the platform in excess of 300 million at this point. Just the DEX outside of perps is doing billions of dollars a month in trading volume. And then, of course, it got a massive leg up from the whole CZ thing. So I apologize, guys, as I'm now running the whole thing. I can't do all of the screen shares on all of the screens. But if you go to DeFiLlama.com and just put Aster in the search bar, you will pop up every single piece of information that I just read off, and you can read all of it. Okay, moving on. If you want more risk, is that where you go? Theoretically. I mean, if you feel like tangling with that much leverage, not my cup of tea, but there's that. I'm really not the target audience for this kind of thing. Like I don't trade like that. I'm not a perps trader. I buy and hold spot, and I swing trade off of that, and that's about it. So anyway, let me do just a quick scroll. Apologies to all of you in podcast land as I drive this ship solo for just the last few minutes here. Where do you find revenue information? I'll put it on the if someone could help me out with a comment, it's just DeFiLlama, llama like the animal, 2 L's.com. There you go. Apple user, as I just said, that's all the information I have about any kind of an Aster airdrop. They are currently tracking points for users, and there's speculation that that's going to play into it. That's it. Okay, so as we round out the week, if you have any final last minute questions, let me know, and we can go through a couple more things. Personally, what I'm waiting for is just to see a little bit more. Like right now, like Will said, I don't have enough information. I'm not the type of trader or the type of investor that aggregates all the specific kind of data that people like Will do. That's why I hang out with Will. So when I'm looking at, should I buy something? Should I invest money in this? Should I invest money in that? Should I sell something? Should I wait? I try to keep it as balanced as possible, especially in times like this where I'm unsure. Would I be surprised if the price of Solana went below 200? No, I would not be surprised. Do I think it would stay there for long? At this point, it's hard to say, but no, not really. I feel like, especially as far as comments go, a lot of people are they seem like they're sort of waiting for it to go down there, below 200. And I would expect that to be bought up just because we've seen so recently, it exceed 250, and people start to realize that, like, okay, hey, maybe that all-time high is not as far out of reach as we thought. But again, it's hard to say. We're all tired. It's been a long, weird run. Like, if you look back at charts from the 2021, cycle pump to the top in November of that year, it was much more, up. We got to the summer, big crash, big sell-off, then up, and then just pretty much steady down from there on. Whereas as we sit here, it's kind of behaving a little bit differently. It feels weird and different. This is my third time, running through the whole thing, and it's definitely different, which is, honestly, one of the things that I've been trying to take advantage of. So what am I capitalizing on? It's exactly that. I look at charts just enough to say, like, okay, we are down so many percent today. I have a chance to either lower my average cost of acquisition of an asset, or just adding some more to a position that I think is going to increase. And then I'm just not afraid to sell it. So to all of you asking, like, is now a good time to buy Solana as it sits at as it sits at 198.65? In my opinion, yeah, I'll add some below here at 200. If it goes back to 215, I'm going to take profit, because I don't need to see crazy swings. I'm not the kind of person who sits here and looks at money and watches volatility go by and refuses to take advantage of it. I want to capitalize on these swings as much as humanly possible. And I'm one of those people who believes that 10% return, 15, 20, 30% return on an investment in a very short time frame is really good. Remember, if you beat 10%, you're beating the S&P. I find it to be a little bit irresponsible to, like, over-invest into these hyper volatile assets and then watch 30, 40, 50, 80, 100, 150, 200% gains go by and do nothing about it. That's insane to me. I always think about closing the gap. You might have heard me say that before, wherein if your dollar is losing roughly 20% per year, it's more this year, 20% per year in purchasing power, thanks to things like currency debasement or inflation, whatever you can do to close that gap with money is good. So if you have a place where you can put some stable coins and earn 9% APY, you've now closed, almost half of that gap. If you can then do anything to earn 15% return on an investment, which is not hard to do with crypto, and you can capitalize on that investment and you can secure it and take your profits and sell something at that point, fantastic. You've made up the gap. And I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to this. I'm already taking a risk by investing in something like a crypto because it is a much riskier place. It's much more volatile. It is much sketchier. It's much more subject to the erroneous whims of influential figures, of government actions, of the statements of politicians now that the government is intertwined in that whole thing. Yeah, and I agree with the comment from Dave here in the chat that that DeFi is dangerous. This is a new thing. There's a lot of sketchy stuff out there. What you have to do before you start over leveraging yourself and over investing in things is kind of figure out how to spot the sketchy stuff. How to identify when a project or a protocol doesn't make any sense. I was running an APY search looking for a place for yield last night just to kind of put a list together. I found this random ass protocol. It had like 75% APY. And then you go and you look and, okay, where does that yield come from? And none of it makes any sense. And the value of the token is like not there. I don't even remember what it was called at that, but it was a very quick write-off. And then you can tell, like, okay, this just comes from sucking money out of traders losing money, and then it pays out to the few people who can capitalize on it, and it's real sketchy. It's quite literally a Ponzi scheme. And if you can learn how to identify that kind of stuff, then you can sort of stick around and use the more established platforms and protocols, and they are quite safe comparatively, especially for this category of asset. There's a whole ton of stuff. I cannot overstate how much value you can get from reading DeFiLlama as a resource. It's completely free. It's wild that it's completely free. There is no like pro membership that you need to buy to get access to any of the information. You can look up all of the revenue stuff, all the TVL stuff, all of the volume, all of the fees, the generation, the user demand, like all this kind of stuff. There's a tremendous amount of information there. It's all free. It's crazy. That's why I shout them out so much, because what can I donate to them? Attention, and it's a great resource. Anyway, been yapping for a minute. Let me do a quick scroll and see if there are any final questions before I also get ready to ride my dogs and ponies off into the sunset. Nothing is going up. Everything is going down right now. Literally for just the last few days. Before that, it was exploding upwards. It's really hard to take a couple days of price action, put it in a vacuum, and discount everything else. It's easy to get overwhelmed by that if you've been buying like the entire way up and you are too exposed. So honestly, the best words of wisdom that I can offer, if the feeling that you have right now is worry or nerves or panic or any of that kind of stuff, it's just, that is a great indication that you're probably over leveraged, that you probably over invested, that you probably cannot afford to lose what you currently have into something. It's a great opportunity to gut check and make an adjustment. I'll give you an example. At no point, so let's take Solana, I swing trade Solana. That is usually what I pay attention to. I have a lot of stuff going on. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff. The show is, keeps me extremely busy. I don't have the time to track 45 different cryptocurrencies. I track one. I pay attention to Solana, and that's what I swing trade. And in that instance, I have a position in Solana where I have some SOL and I have some USDC sitting on SOL on the network. And all I do is trade back and forth between those two things, kind of, snowballing my way up to have more USDC and more SOL than I started with. As SOL goes up, I sell it for USDC. As SOL goes down, I sell the USDC and buy SOL at a discount. And I just do that over and over again. At no point ever will I have 100% of that position in stablecoins or 100% of that position in stablecoins or in Solana. Excuse me. I will always have some exposure to both because I do not know which direction the markets are going to go all the time, and they can surprise you. So all I do is make sure that I have exposure to both. You know, I believe in Solana long term, so I make sure I always have at least some of it. That way, in case it just erroneously explodes or I go on vacation or whatever, I'm not upset about holding on to it. But I always want to be prepared to capitalize on the price if it crashes, especially if it's a crash that I didn't see coming. So make sure I always have stable coins. Plus, I have options to earn yield on that stablecoin stack. So if I get to a point where, you know, we have a couple months of it being super boring, I can just park those stablecoins and earn some interest. That's, you know, why things like DeFi Carrot yesterday on the show are so interesting. Because if I don't know what to do, if I just want to wait and see, I might as well be earning interest on those stablecoins so that they are still helping me close that gap, right? Will Gala go up? If it does, it's purely based on luck. That I would not be personally spending a bunch of time trying to like invest my time, energy, or attention or money into that project. I really truly don't. How do I minimize fees as I do this? I use an exchange called Jupiter to swap. I have the USDC on Solana and the SOL in my Phantom wallet. I connect it to Jupiter and I make the trade, and I spend about a penny per trade. It's not much, and that's it. That's it. There's no my fee is the gas fee to use Solana as a network. It's extremely cheap. It's very fast. I don't use centralized exchanges for all of that. It's in a hot wallet, and I use a decentralized exchange. Jupiter is a good one. Radium works. You can just swap natively inside of the wallets, although you'll pay a little bit more of a fee there because the wallet takes a cut as well. So I just tend to not do that. I tend to use the DEX that gives me the best rate, and I found that to be Jupiter at this point. So moving on. Do I like XRP or dog with hat? Those could not be farther apart. And I'm not invested in either one, and I have absolutely zero plans to ever be invested in either one. All right. Have I considered putting money in DeFi Carrot? Yes, I did a little bit just to kind of test out how the platform worked. It was very easy. Let's take a peek at it and see. Oh, it's right here. See where it's at. Yep, I did, and I've made 35 cents so far. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I would like to do a little bit more deep dive for those of you who were not watching the show yesterday. DeFi Carrot, literally like the vegetable, is a DeFi protocol on Solana wherein you can park your stablecoins in their token, which is kind of like an index of lots of other things that, you know, supply the value to their pool, and you can earn interest there. It functions as a user similar to parking USDC in a Morpho vault or putting it on Aave or something like that. So, you know, from my perspective, I am parking some stable coins there, and I am earning currently 8.85% interest on dollars. If you are curious about other places where you can get yield, DeFiLlama actually has a full suite of dashboards that track the yield on hundreds, if not thousands, of different DeFi protocols, ranging from the sketchiest, seediest things that you should definitely avoid to the most vanilla, most conservative places, you know, the biggest interest earning platforms like Aave, for example, which is, you know, the biggest DeFi protocol on the planet, and everything in between. So that is honestly, that is where I would go to start. You can literally search by just filter by USDC and it will show you every single place where you can earn interest on USDC. I have a few videos on it. We can definitely do a deeper dive on the show next week, kind of talking about earning interest on dollars. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because it doesn't require you to purchase any volatile cryptocurrencies. You just take your dollars and you essentially open a decentralized savings account with a much better interest rate. What about DOT? Unfortunately, I have like no interest in it right now, and most people don't either. It's unfortunate because it's a really interesting network. It's built in a very interesting way. I participated in the first round of parachain auctions. I allocated my DOT appropriately, voted for who I wanted to see, get a slot. A number of those got those slots, and then that network, unfortunately, just really truly believes that they don't have to communicate with people. They don't have to market. They don't have to message. They don't have to try to grow the user base. They truly, and I've spoken to enough Polkadot engineers who truly believe, like, they will look me in my eyes and say, no, I'm just going to build something incredible and people will show up. And all I can do is lightly place a hand on their hand and just say, sweetie, that's not how it works. And they're finding out the hard way that that's not how it works, unfortunately. So no, I'm not invested in that at this point. It's a bummer because it's cool, but I don't see it going anywhere at this point. And the disclaimer with all of these is that any currency, any crypto can increase in price at the drop of a hat for almost no reason. The right person sends a tweet about the right thing at the right time and boom, price goes up. It makes it really hard to offer thoughts on this kind of stuff because, I can say what I believe. I can say what theoretically makes sense. I can say what the data shows. I can tell you which protocols have the most revenue. I can tell you where the users happen to be. But at the end of the day, like I said, at the end of the day, a single tweet from the right person at the right time can explode something or crater something else. Good shit dumps all the time in price, and dumb shit pumps all the time in price. And that's just the way of the world, unfortunately. Do I own Bitcoin? I sure do. And I put a little bit into it at a regular basis, and I tuck it away in cold storage, and I never look at it. That's one. I'm allergic to selling Bitcoin. I don't have a tremendous amount. I'm not a particularly wealthy individual, but I have a little bit. It's my retirement account. Bitcoin is. That is. Appreciate all of you guys hanging out. I know that it's a little bit less exciting to only have one of us, especially when Evan's not here, but I appreciate all you guys hanging out with me. We're gonna wind it down here. The yield on Carrot appears to be daily at this point. You can withdraw it whenever you want. And as he said, there's a 5 basis point, which is 0.05% withdrawal fee to convert it back. And that is that's just part of their model. So you're kind of incentivized to, park some and leave it there for a while so that, you don't, if you're making 0.05% per day, you wouldn't want to put money in there for one day and then pull it out, leave it in there for a little while. But again, I'm still kind of learning, really only very recently discovered the project, can't say unequivocally one way or the other, good, bad, but definitely interesting. ICP, same kind of thing. They really, truly don't believe they need to tell anyone about anything interesting. They think they can just sit in their caves and build stuff and these millions of users will show up. That's a really good example of a group, the Definity Labs, who are full of brilliant engineers and researchers who are interested in coming up with and creating and building and discovering all sorts of very interesting things. And the trading action on the ICP token funds all of their efforts, and they're comfortable with that. You could say that about pretty much everything. There are very few that fall outside of that. Hedera is another one. Same thing. Brilliant engineers doing really interesting things. They don't feel a need to advertise or to bring in people or to grow and to scale and whatever. They are comfortable earning money off of the trading of the token and selling the token and paying their bills that way, and then just kind of, researching and building and developing their thing. All right. I appreciate all of you for hanging out with us and me. We will be back first thing Monday. If in the meantime you have more questions that you did not get answered, I know that there are lots of questions that I unfortunately did not get to, at this point. Thoughts on about 400 different kinds of crypto. My thoughts on crypto are basically all the same. I can summarize all of them right now. So, if your question was thoughts on this, that, the other thing, whatever, my thoughts are this. I'm curious how many people actually use it. I'm curious what they're doing to tell the story and grow that user base. I'm curious how much money they're actually making. If they are pre-revenue, I'm curious what the business model is. What is the plan to make money? If they have one, interesting. Let's evaluate that. If they don't have one, yikes. I'm curious how much funding they've taken. I'm very sketchy of things that don't have a strong revenue plan, are not currently profitable, and have taken significant venture capital funding because those VCs got token allocations and they are interested in making money on that. And that means selling it to people for hire. That means that they got in at a very cheap price and they would like to get out at a higher price. And that is their primary motive. So I'm sketched out by that. So, like I said, users, revenue, potential, business plan, revenue plan, amount of venture capital backing that has happened thus far. That informs my thoughts on basically everything. So today we are not running an after show in Circle. I will, however, be in and around the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to toss them into the Circle community. You can find that at community.rumshq.com. The link is in my bio. The link is in Evan's bio, who's in the chat over here on TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on everything else, there are links in my profile and the show's profiles everywhere to help you get into that community. It is completely free to join. We would absolutely love to have you. There are things that you can spend money on there, but you don't have to spend a penny to ask a question. If you didn't get your question answered today, I would encourage you to jump in there and to toss it around. There are hundreds and hundreds of extremely excited, interesting, eager learners all over the place who can definitely help you if you happen to have a question that we don't know the answer to or one of us is not there. But I will be in and out of the chat throughout the rest of the day. Thank you again for hanging out. It was wonderful to see all of you, and we will be back first thing Monday morning right here on all platforms, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Have a wonderful day.